Hey guys, I wanted to make a video today that I will probably title Unpopular Opinions about ADHD and Homeschooling or something like that, um, because I have some thoughts and some opinions that probably will not resonate with everyone, and that's okay, but I wanted to make this video because I think it will resonate with some of you. Um, so first of all, I don't often show my face in videos just because I'm more comfortable showing you books and things like that. But for this one, here you go. So let me tell you a little bit about me. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. My name is Kara, and I am a former public librarian. I worked for almost 20 years in youth services. I had a strong focus in early literacy in the public library. And when my daughter was going to be in second grade, I came home to homeschool her. So I have one daughter who is 12. She's going into seventh grade. She did public school for kindergarten and first grade. And I have a son who is 9 and going into fourth grade. And he has always been homeschooled. We actually had planned on sending him to public school for kindergarten, but when he was kind of scheduled to go is when we were in the middle of a global pandemic, and we decided that that was not the kindergarten experience that we wanted for him. I had wanted each of my kids to have 1 year of public school just so they had a basis of comparison. But that didn't happen, and that's fine. So he's been homeschooled ever since. Now, both of my kids have recently received an ADHD diagnosis, which is probably why I'm making this video. But even though their diagnosis is recent, I've known for a long time that they likely had ADHD. My husband has pretty severe ADHD, and I'd always kind of blamed their symptoms on him. And I'm kind of joking when I say blamed him, but I always assumed that their ADHD symptoms came from him. But as I've been reading, especially reading to help my daughter and reading about ADHD in women, I all of a sudden started to see a lot of myself in what I was reading, and kind of started to put together some pieces of my life and realize that I'm pretty sure I have ADHD also. But so having said that, even though my kids just recently got this ADHD diagnosis, I have been making, what can I say, accommodations, changing up how I do things in their schooling as needed for a while now, okay? So I didn't need an ADHD diagnosis to tell me that I needed to do different things to help my kids. And so I think that's one of my kind of things that irritates me that I see in homeschooling, especially on social media and homeschooling, is that all of a sudden people get a diagnosis and then they have to change everything. And I guess my thought is you don't need that you need the diagnosis. Like, don't get me wrong, a diagnosis can be very helpful. If you want to do medication, you need a diagnosis. If you want to seek extra services, you need a diagnosis. And further neuropsych testing, I think in general, is just probably good if you have a neurodivergent child. But I don't need that ADHD diagnosis to know that my child has these struggles. I don't need to wait to get that diagnosis before I can look at their schooling and how they're learning and their work to make adjustments. I'm not sure. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, but it is so hot in my house right now. I had to put my hair up. So our AC is broken, in case you're wondering. And even though it's like 75 outside, it's like 85 in our house. So super hot. Anyway, so all of that to say, I don't need that 4-letter diagnosis to help my child in the present, in the immediate time, right? That didn't make sense, but hopefully you know what I'm saying. I can go ahead and implement scaffolding to help them reach certain skills that maybe they're struggling to reach because it's overwhelming, or I can implement some activities to help build their long-term memory so that doing math is a little bit easier for them. Those are all things that I can do whether I have an ADHD diagnosis or not. Okay. Same with like my daughter, who I have always suspected has a math disability, possibly. We haven't gotten the testing as of yet, and those are for insurance reasons that we haven't done that as of yet. But I can still make adjustments to how I teach her based on the research that I've done, based on what I see her doing in front of me. Even though I don't have that diagnosis, she may or may not have it, but I can still, she still needs help, right? So it doesn't matter, really. Anyway, okay, and so my other kind of unpopular opinion is I feel like I see a lot of us homeschool parents who are dealing with neurodivergent children who I feel like sometimes we put it all on them. And it's, they're the problem. And what I've come to realize, at least in my situation, is that, hi, it's me. Like, I'm the problem. And I'm starting to realize that, yes, some of the problems stem from my child, but a lot of the problems stem from me as the teacher and my own neurodivergence and how I am able to organize our day, and how my limitations, I guess I should say, on how I'm able to process information and retain the information that I need in order to teach them, and just all of those little things. Sometimes it's the parent that's the problem and not the student. The student is just waiting, your child is just waiting for you to help them with where they're struggling. And I think sometimes as a parent, we're so in our box that either one, we don't realize that we have ADHD and we need to get our SHIT together, or we're not neurodivergent, we have a neurotypical brain, and so we can't see how making a few changes really can help our child. And it's not, their fault that things aren't working. They're relying on us to figure out how best to teach them. And I think a lot of times, if our child learns differently than we do, we are a little stuck and we think it's them. They need to conform to how I learn. And I think I see it a lot when I watch homeschool videos. And I think that we need to be looking, the put your air mask on before you can help the people around you. Well, it's a little bit like that. Now, obviously, you can't say to your child, hey, you just sit there and live life while I get my mental health together. But you need to be kind of self-reflecting, I feel like, and saying, okay, what part of this is me? What part of our struggles are my limitations or my issues, and what part are theirs? And how can I work through my own issues in order to better help my child? And some people can do that and some people can't.
Thank you for calling T-Mobile. This call.
It's funny. I don't know. My phone is sitting here in front of me and somehow it called T-Mobile. So I don't know why. Anyway, I don't remember where I was. And I feel like this video is probably all over the place and not making a whole lot of sense. So I apologize. Hopefully you can wade through all that and get something from this. But I think I was talking about kind of our role as parents in helping our child and recognizing when we're the problem and what we need to change. And I think that we need to change the things that we can change. But I think we also need to, I've said this before, pick curriculum that works for both you and your child. Pick curriculum for the teacher that you are and not the teacher that you want to be. And I spent a lot of years picking curriculum for the teacher that I wanted to be instead of kind of accepting the teacher that I was. And I don't think you should be changing curriculum every time it doesn't work for you as the parent, but I do think it does have to work for you as the parent. And sometimes you need to figure out how you can tweak the curriculum so that it works for you and it works for your child. And that can be a big task. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think that it's easy. I think that it can be very hard. And I think that if you don't have experience doing that, it can seem overwhelming. So I, I think I think half the battle is just recognizing our own, I don't want to say deficiencies because that makes it sound more negative than I think it is, but we need to kind of find a way to recognize our own limitations or our own, I don't know, fill in the blank. What word am I trying to think of? And find a way to make it work for us and our child. So, which brings me to another thing that I've seen quite often is, oh, my child has ADHD. We just got this diagnosis. I need to buy all new curriculum. Well, here's another thing I've learned. I've got 2 kids with ADHD, and they are both completely different in how their ADHD affects their schooling. So I feel like there's no 2 ADHD kids that are going to be exactly the same. May they have some similar characteristics? Yes. Are there certain things that are common among ADHD kids? Yes. But there's not a one size fits all ADHD kid curriculum. And I think hopefully leading up to this diagnosis, you've been working with the curriculum you have to try to tweak it to fit your child. I have another video coming up where I show you kind of how we tweak a workbook for my daughter to make it actually beneficial to her and not something that she wasn't retaining any information from. I'm not sure when that will be up in relation to this video, but hopefully we've been doing some of that, right? And we don't just need to say, oh, they have this diagnosis, I need to change everything. I think what we need to start with is saying, what isn't working? And then why is it not working? And what can I do? What can I try? You're not going to just get an answer like that by buying new curriculum or researching an answer. You're going to have to oftentimes try different things and give it a little time to see how that worked and then tweak again or go back to the drawing board again. Like, it's a process. I just made a video recently where I talked, I think it was my, what I read in June. And I shared a book called The Homeschool Teacher. I'll link that video somewhere here. But one of the first lines in the book that I liked was it said something like, homeschooling is a job. And it really is. It is hard work. Like, it's hard work. And so oftentimes you're not just gonna be able to say, oh, here, I'll change this, implement the change, and it works great. There's oftentimes some back and forth, some give and take, and some work that you have to do. So I feel like you need to start with what didn't work about our curriculum this year. Did none of it worked? Was it how we did it? I think a lot of times when I first started homeschooling, because I'd watched so much YouTube, I saw a lot of like, here are these workbooks. You give it to your child, they read the directions, they do the work. And guess what? That didn't work for my child. And I think that sometimes there's that expectation of like, that's all I need to do it. They just need to read the directions and do the page, and then we can move on and go about our day. And in my experience, that doesn't work for a lot of kids. So I think we need to be spending some time asking ourselves, reflecting, taking notes, what isn't working. And honestly, if you're so overwhelmed that you don't even know where to start in that, then just back it up and say, we're going to just focus on language arts and math right now, because we need to be doing something consistently, and we need to find something that's working so my child is not miserable and feeling bad about themselves and not getting an education. Start there. Start with the basics. And then when you start to see like, oh, my child responds well to this type of instruction, or I've noticed that doing this really helps them retain information. So I think there are things that you can do outside of just changing your whole curriculum, because if you're not pinpointing what is the actual problem with your curriculum, then just switching to a new curriculum is not going to help. And I think I also see a lot of like, almost like oversimplifying what people are giving to their kids because they think, well, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. But I don't think you need to oversimplify your what you're teaching your child. I think you need to incorporate some scaffolding and maybe slow certain things down to a point, but you can build that up. You start slow and then you just add things in as they're better able to handle it. Kind of like when you do like an elimination diet when you're like working with allergies, you kind of take everything out and then you slowly one by one kind of add things in. I think that an approach like that can be beneficial. Um, and I guess to kind of sum up here or to finish, I guess I want to say that um, once you get that diagnosis, your work's not done. Even if you opt for medication for your child, it's not going to fix everything. Like um, you still need to work with them with how you're instructing them and how you're implementing, um, their curriculum into their day and what their schedule's like and having a little bit of structure in their schedule and some continuity and things like that. Like just getting that diagnosis and getting medication or whatever isn't like, okay, we're done. Like there's still other things you need to figure out, which is why I kind of get so frustrated when people are like, okay, we got this diagnosis, we're going to get a new curriculum, and they're on medication and everything's fine. Because I think very rarely is that how it ends up. So I think that I would love to see um, more of this information shared in the YouTube community with people sharing kind of what what is working for their kids and what's not if they do struggle with ADHD or dyslexia or um, other other struggles like that. Um, because I think we can all kind of grow and learn from each other, and I think that we owe it to our kids to be doing as much research and learning as we can. There's so many good books out there. I shared one in my What I Read in June video, and I'm reading a couple others right now. Another one just recently, I don't know if this will show up backwards or not, but it's called Scattered to Focus. I feel like this is a really good, like, if you're at the very beginning of that journey, this might be a really helpful book. My daughter was looking at it, she's like, Mom, isn't that so cool? The dots go from scattered to focused, and the child is facing the focus side. Anyway, this is one that I am finding, I'm not learning a ton new from it right now because I've already done a lot of other reading and research. So anyway, I hope this video is not all over the place, but I fear that it is. I hope that you can hear my opinions and thoughts, and maybe some of them will resonate with you and kind of encourage you to do some research or work with your child maybe in a way you hadn't thought of before. I would love um, to hear in the comments what your thoughts are, hopefully in a kind way, what your experience has been. If you have something that has really worked for you in your homeschool, whether you as the teacher have ADHD or your child has ADHD, I would love for the comments to kind of become a place where people can share information and help each other out because this is a job and it is not an easy job, but it is a valuable job. And that is all I have to say. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you down in the comments.